Okay,
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the September 1st, 2020 Warrenton Board of Aldermen meeting. If you want to join us, you can either go to Zoom, and our meeting ID will be 956-274-8536, or by phone by dialing 1-312-626-6799. Or you can email your comments or submit written comments to mrugh@warrenton-mo.org. With that being said, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing section of the Warrenton Board of Aldermen meeting. But before we actually take any comments or move on to that, I'd like to go ahead and say something first.
Mayor, if you can, sorry to interrupt you, but we have to do the annexation one first. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Gravel. I'm the city attorney for Warrenton. As a preliminary matter, I would ask that the ordinances of the city of Warrenton be made a part of the record by reference. Up on the screen, you will see here is Exhibit A, which I asked be made a part of the record by reference. That's a notice of hearing concerning annexation. If you can bring up Exhibit B, I'd ask that to be made part of the record. Exhibit B is the petition for annexation filed by George Heath on 8/5/2020 with regards to the certification as required by Missouri law regarding the annexation of unincorporated territory. I'd ask I ask that that be made a part of the record by reference. And I'd ask you to bring up Exhibit C as well. Now, Exhibit C is an amended Exhibit C. The original drawing had a Scribner's error regarding the acreage that has since been corrected. I'd ask that this be made a part of the record by reference, and this will replace the initial Exhibit C for the annexation of this property. I'm here to answer any questions on behalf of the city, and upon answering any questions, Mayor, I would ask that you ask if members of the public have any comments or questions with regards to this proposed voluntary annexation.
Duly noted, and will be asked if there are any comments from the public that would pertaining only and solely to the annexation of the 33.21 acres of Hickory Ridge Family LLC.
Since it doesn't appear there's any questions, Mayor, I'd ask you to close the public hearing for this annexation request.
Melody, do we have any that have come in? Anyone? Brandy, Terry, do you know of any?
I don't know of any. I have people out here that have a question on the annexation.
On the annexation of just the Hickory Ridge Family LLC.
They misunderstood. Continue on.
No, I didn't misunderstand.
Then I will go ahead and.
Wait a minute. Here he is.
I addressed this to the lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'd just like to know, does the annexation of this small finger comply with the Sawyer Act of 1953?
I'm sorry, are you asking about the annexation that we're having the public hearing on?
Yeah.
The one here tonight?
Well, which one are we talking about?
This one is not off the Sunnyside Road. This was at Tuesday.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't understand either.
Very confusing.
Continue on.
I will just, as a general response to that, I will point out Exhibit B of this annexation, which is the process that we do for all annexations. The request is, obviously approved by the engineer as far as the contiguous and requirements of the Sawyer Act. I don't have any further comments, Mayor.
Okay, any questions or any comments from the board or the public?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section, and I do have a comment to make before we open up the public hearing part of the Country Lakes Estate Plat 1 zone change is 62. We've had some people from the public voice their opinions on what be it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing for the County Lake Estates Plat 1 ZC-62. But as everyone is aware of the COVID-19 pandemic and safe social distancing requirements and recommendations has been a challenge for conducting public meetings and especially public hearings. The Board of Aldermen takes every meeting and especially public hearings serious, and we want to hear from all interested parties with regards to the petition. Therefore, I will be asking for a motion to continue the public hearing until September 15th, 2020, at which time we anticipate that we will have the capability to be in person for live public comment. I do apologize for any inconvenience that this may cause the petitioner or members of the public. However, I want to make sure the public has the ability to provide in-person comments to this petition. Members of the public will be allowed to participate in the public hearing on September 15th, 2020 in person via Zoom video link or via written comments received prior to noon on September 15th, 2020. The written comments received prior to tonight's opening of the public hearing will also be read into the record on September 15th, 2020. Once again, guys, we apologize. I apologize for any inconveniences. We're doing the best we can to make sure that all voices are heard without jeopardizing anyone's safety or the safety of our staff. At this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to continue tonight's public hearing until September 15th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Ock. Roll call vote.
Alderman Delloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0, so we will be continuing it. At that time, we will be able to accommodate everybody in person. Are there any?
Mr. Mayor, there is a chat question that came in wanting to know if you'll be reading the emails that were sent in if the person is not able to attend the meeting on September 15th.
Hey, you get that? Oh.
We will be doing that at the next meeting.
Thank you.
With that, I'll go ahead and draw the public hearings section to a close, and I will open the regular Board of Aldermen meeting. And the first item will be the consent agenda.
Regular meeting minutes from August 18th, 2020, the executive session meeting minutes from August 18th, 2020, and the work session minutes from August 24th, 2020 on future development in the city.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Who did you get? Second, Cheryl. Motion made by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Dyer. Roll call vote.
Alderman Delloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
and Alderman Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next item will be Board of Aldermen comments.
I'd just like to give a shout out to all the parents that were involved in the start of school and thank them for all that they're doing, because this has been a crazy start of the school year. And I think we all appreciate how much these parents and teachers are going through. So hang in there. Hopefully it'll get better.
I agree.
Any other comments? All right, I'd like to go ahead and make one comment here. Last meeting, I misspoke. We spoke about dispatch with the chief, and I believe I was the one who made a comment that it was through dispatch, but it was not. I did homework on that, and then with the help of Amy up at dispatch, who informed me some information, gave me information I needed. That is not their protocol to send fire on every call with the ambulance, and I think that was asked by one or two of our aldermen. It is actually something that I guess the fire board informed them of that they would like. I believe I'm getting that right. So I just wanted to, if there was any criticism, albeit I know sometimes some of these emergency services get a lot of criticism on comments, but I will tell you, I misspoke on that, and I apologize to everybody on that. But we're always trying to be transparent. So the new information that was received, we will put it out there. And that's what this is.
I really appreciate that Amy straightened that out for us. So thank you, Amy Ellard.
Any other comments? All right, next item will be the liquor license for Casey's General Store. Are there any questions or comments on that?
Nope.
I will entertain a motion to approve the liquor license for Casey's General Store.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Miller. Roll call vote.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
and Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next on the agenda will be the CARES funding for the Warren County, or the countywide communication project. Are there any questions or comments on this? No discussion whatsoever?
No, I will lead the discussion on this, Mayor. I've talked extensively to Terry about this issue of using COVID-related funds from the federal government to do capital improvement projects as suggested by the Sheriff's Department, I guess, put the plan together. And I'm not for or against improved communication, but what I am concerned about as an elected official, specifically because the city of Warrenton apparently had their name on the application with somebody who we don't know scribbling that the police chief agreed with it, but the board had to approve it, and really like to have whoever did that to come forth and say they did it. And my concern is from a number of years of experience dealing with federal fundings. My employment, on numerous occasions, we've had federal fundings and we've been responsible for doing federal audits, known as a federal single audit, when your expenditures exceed over $750,000 during the year. And these are very technical audits. I can relate one in a daycare center where we received federal fundings, where an audit find was that we were using Jell-O as a fruit substitute, which was illegal. And so that gives you an idea of the depth of what a federal audit is and how deep they go into this. And my concern specifically in the paperwork we have, and I think these fall under the questions that were frequently asked. The question was, could funds paid to be used for capital improvement projects to broadly provide potential economic development in the community? And the answer was, in general, no. The capital improvement projects are necessary expenditures incurred due to COVID public health emergencies, that the fund payments may not be used for such projects. So the crux of that is from my interpretation, is that the clear guidance from the Treasury is that these capital improvements projects are not qualified. And I don't think as such, the city should be a part of any petition or any agreement that states that these funds will be used for this purpose. I think we can all understand that there has always been a need for improved communication and everybody supports that. But the use of these funds, in my opinion, would appear to be inappropriate for this. Now, if there was additional costs that were incurred because there was a number of cases that were COVID response that was higher than usual, let's say at 10% more calls, you could justify using 10% of the funding for the project from COVID funds. But short of that, I think it's going to be very difficult for an auditor to approve this. And so what I'm asking, and I certainly would encourage the county to look at, is getting in touch with a firm that does federal audits to assure that this is an appropriate use of funds. My concern is to the point where if the city were to participate in this and receive funding for emergency, and it was found out that in the audit that these were inappropriate use of funds, that the city would be required to pay back whatever was advanced to the city for the purchase of these funds. So I am really opposed to us supporting the project, and I'm opposed to us having our name associated with this, because I think the prudent step would be to have the county go out and have an auditor who handles single audits come out and look at this proposal and look at the guidance and make a determination prior to spending the funds. And if the auditor were to come out and approve this and say this is a legitimate use for funds, then I would suggest that maybe the city would I would reconsider my position. But I think until then, I think the prudent financial thing to do would be to not participate in the program at such time. So that's my standing on this issue. If there's any questions I can answer, I'd be more than happy to do that. Or if there's a general discussion, I certainly would participate in that.
So I guess my question would be, you said at the very beginning, this signature, we're not sure who put that down there. Is that correct?
That's my understanding from talking to Terry, the city administrator, that we don't really have a record of who marked on it. And I don't have it in front of me. I think the wording was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the police chief agrees in principle with the project, however, cannot sign the document without the approval of the board. And I don't think that's a position that should be put on the piece of paper by anybody, specifically by somebody who's not related to the city in any way.
Is the chief available to answer that question?
The chief is not on. I did ask the chief after I got the copy of this if he had put that on there, and he said he did not, and that he had not given approval for anyone to put that on the document. I can try to get him.
So Terry, this clearly says that he supports the project. Are you saying that Larry did not voice his opinion regarding the project one way or the other?
Larry said he has supported this project from the beginning as a project, but has given no indication that the funding was appropriate for this project.
Okay. Okay.
He thinks it's good for all of emergency services to improve communications.
Oh,
Just not the connection to the CARES funding.
okay. I have to agree with Gary in that I'm concerned that the government is going to want this money back if this falls short of meeting the definition. So I agree with you, Gary.
Yeah, and
I
I think
agree with Alderman Ock as well.
I think the comment was made in some of the discussions I had was, well, if they audited, I think this is an issue where clearly there will be a federal audit. It's a requirement of receiving the funds, and that federal audit will probably be within 12 months of the close of the time where the money is spent. So if the money is spent in spring of next year and the county's year ends in June, then there will be an audit within that year. And if the county chooses not to ask for an audit, I'm sure there are citizens who would probably pursue that to make sure that that's properly accounted for, because it is a lot of money. And I think we as residents and members are interested in having it done. The project's important, but having it done properly.
What does our city attorney say that you think these monies are appropriate to spend towards that funding?
Well, I agree with Alderman Ock that it's an audit issue. I think he is correct about it. As we've discussed previously, Alderman Schultz, this money came from the federal government to the state of Missouri to Warren County. Warren County has broad discretion in what they do with the funds. I've attended both meetings with the county commission, and I think I've gotten, at least from my part, inconsistent responses, because we had a request pursuant to some commentaries, put out frequently asked questions by the Department of Treasury that, as I've discussed with you guys last meeting, this project seems to be inconsistent with what response we got at the meeting. Now, as I've said repeatedly, and I've said to you all prior, everybody's trying to figure this out because it's an interpretation issue. It's not really a question, in my opinion. I think to Alderman Ock's point, it's a risk issue with regards to the audit. Whether or not this fits within it, Warren County is ultimately the one that, we are responsible to pay it back because we signed an agreement with regards to this. I do believe that the radio project is inconsistent with the position that I was told in person by the county's attorney. And I brought that to you all last meeting to say, I think we need some clarification on it. But ultimately, it's a decision that the board has to make whether or not they want to participate.
Yeah, let me make another point too. The funds came from the federal and were passed through to the state and are now in the hands of the county. They still are considered federal funds. We've been in a similar situation where I work, we received federal money that came through the state and went through our organization, and that was considered federal money. And we did a federal audit, and even in the Treasury frequently asked questions, there's reference to the federal audit information as to what the project number is. So that's a clear indicator that this is federal money, and as such is going to require. I mean, my really issue is, it's not that hard to do a little due diligence and inquire of a CPA firm that does federal audits as to a position on this. It's a reasonable thing to do when you're spending $22 million on a project that certainly is difficult to follow within the guidelines. And I understand that, because a lot of the funding that I've looked at through the course of my work and through workshops, there's always that gray area. And so you're trying to figure out what's the appropriate use of the funding. And I think this is a classic gray area. And as a matter of fact, Thursday, I have a phone call on a project we're doing at work with our auditing firm, asking the same type of questions that I think the county should ask here. Is your interpretation of the federal guidelines and of the yellow book, which is the auditing manual that's over 200 pages long that auditors use. What's the appropriate use of the funding we're receiving, the same way what's the appropriate use of the funding that the county's receiving? Because we're wondering if we could take part of the COVID money and use it to buy equipment. And it's a gray area, and we're looking for that kind of guidance. I'm simply saying, before the city would sign off on this, I think we need to have some guidance from the county, from a CPA firm, and it's not, in my opinion, a legal issue at all. And it's hard to ignore the Treasury guidelines and the most frequently asked questions when they ask that specific question is, does capital projects qualify? And in general, it says no. So I think that's about as clear as it gets.
Do you all want Chief Ellard to call in? He's available.
Who's Keith Ellard?
Chief Ellard?
Larry Ellard.
Oh yeah. I don't
He'd
care.
like that answered if he gave authorization or said something.
Okay, I'll get him on.
I'm asking if they'd like for them to speak on that behalf. It was brought up by Alderman Ock.
Which issue was that? Which point was that?
And I do want to just say that to Alderman Ock's comment, he has the experience with these federal audits. We don't get a lot of federal monies, and I think their point's well taken. It is more likely my interpretation or a lawyer's interpretation of what is COVID related, or an argument we could make, really irrelevant for federal funds. What really probably matters is auditors that are experienced in this field, do they see this as being within that realm? And that's probably the comfort level that you're speaking to, Alderman Ock.
That's exactly right. Again, I don't think that's too high of a bar to do that checking before the county were to proceed with this. Is simply to have an auditor to come out, look at the documentation, because they're not going to look at a lawyer's opinion. They're not going to look at what the public thinks. They're not going to look at anything. They're going to look specifically at the Treasury guidelines and at the audit instructions. That's how they do their job. So it's not an issue of, well, in my opinion, this is appropriate. In my opinion, it's not. They're going to look at the technical details of this to make their own conclusion.
I get it. I also think that it can strain relations asking for some things like that. It can be interpreted as a little bit of a offensive move. Since they've never asked anything for us to audit, I think we need to tread lightly on that and just make a decision whether we want to go ahead and support this or not.
Well,
hold on. Let me finish, please.
Yeah.
Telling another department, division, or county that they need to do something above what they're doing, I don't know that that's our call to do. We could ask and they could tell us not to, or that they don't have to, and that would be their right to do. But making a recommendation that they should because of this or that, I don't feel like that's our interpretation to do as a city.
Well,
So-
I disagree with you because I am a member of the county too. I'm an alderman. I wear two hats. I'm also a citizen of the county. So it may be not, and I, not speaking as an alderman, speaking as a citizen of the county, that's my position.
Okay.
So let me provide some updated information just from today that you may or may not have. I spoke with Commissioner Gildehouse today, and I shared Alderman Ock's concern regarding the audit process and what that entailed with Commissioner Gildehouse. He informed me that their attorney is in the process of finalizing it, and the commissioners have already formally approved the request. He said that their attorney answered all of their questions, and they felt like that it had been approved and they had pursued all of the information that they needed, and were just awaiting him finalizing the documents.
Let me respond again to what Eric just said. As a board of aldermen, I think we have an interest in that because we could be receiving funding through this source. And if there's a risk that we may have to pay back some of that funding because we purchased equipment or did whatever it was that was in the project and had to pay it back, I think that's something that's in the interest of the Board of Aldermen also. So it's just not a personal issue, but it's also an issue I think every board member should be concerned about.
Well, that's why I said we can opt out or we can stay in. It's our choice. So with that, did everybody read their packet?
Yes.
So does everybody understand that we can opt out and that's not an issue? We also will have to find monies somewhere if this is pushed through to go through and reprogram all our radios and what be it, because they will be updating a system that will not be compatible with the programming of our radios.
Well, don't we have, is it the same radio that we have money in our budget to purchase new ones?
Well, they're different radios, but the programming of the radios will be different. So you'll have to budget for the keys to program each radio. And I believe the car radios will have to be replaced because it'll be an upgraded system that our car radios won't be able to handle.
I believe Chief Ellard is on now. Larry, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
So, Chief, I guess the first question was, did you or did you not give authorization to put that down, or did somebody scribble that without your authorization?
There may be misunderstanding. I absolutely 1000% support the idea of a new radio project. However, I'm in no position to determine whether or not CARES money should be applied to this. My opinion of this is I support the radio project, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I just was curious who wrote that on the document.
I would say somebody there took Larry's comment as he supports it, and they just wrote it in there. But he supports it, but he can't sign for it.
Were you aware that they were writing that down, Chief Ellard?
Yes. I said, and I'm saying it right here in an open meeting, I absolutely support the project. I just,
Right.
I can't make the determination of whether this is an appropriate use of CARES money or not.
I think the question was, honestly, I think if I'm reading it or if I'm understanding it right, is that if you were aware they were putting that down.
Yeah, when they went to turn it in, they said, we put this down, and I said, okay, that's fine, meaning I understand. I mean, I support the project, yes.
Okay.
And
Well, and
I turned that directly over to Terry to get authorization, so it's not like I said, yeah, I authorize this. I requested permission to get it authorized.
Okay.
to me, Larry, the big issue is, I support the project too. I think communications are critical. My question is about the funding. So I think we're kind of in a similar position. I think we all want to have proper response when we have emergencies and we need the police or the fire department or the ambulance or whoever it might be coming. And I think that's a great thing for the community. My concern is just the funding. That's and the exposure we have with the funding. That's the only issue I have. And
So Chief Ellard, I guess another question is the compatibility of the car radios. If this upgrade goes through and we opt out, what will that mean for either the car or the handheld radios that are budgeted? What is the concerns with that?
It's my understanding, because we're working with the same vendor, like we were already in progress of doing the same project with the same vendor that the county-wide project is going to be. And the vendor explained to me that whatever digital system the county went to as a whole, we would be able to modify the software and our radios to match that. And that's in those that's in the handhelds. If the county goes ahead with this whole project, we will need new car radios.
What's the cost of the new car radios?
It should be there in the packet. I don't have that in front of me.
yeah, I don't think we saw that.
No, I did not.
It's not in the CARES proposal.
It's
Well,
in there.
Is it?
It's in there, yeah. It's a matter of finding it.
Is it the 57,696.14? Or is it the 69? Is it the total amount?
I think it's a 69, isn't it?
60. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Wright City. My apologies.
65, 636.39 is wireless and A&W, Larry. Are those car radios, or do you know? Or is that everything?
Is there any way to make that bigger on the screen, or no? There you go.
34.
That screen's kind of cut off. Is it the third one down, 65,636?
Yes.
Is that where the cursor is now? Yeah.
Yes.
That would be the P25 mobiles, and then portables. So that quote that you're looking at there is for 12 car radios and 2 supervisor handheld radios, and then software keys.
So it's nothing to do with the one.
Is that what, if we choose not to be involved in the project, is that what the cost would be to the city to get everything to work with the new system?
I'm assuming so. The only thing that we would be missing out of this quote would be the actual walkie-talkies, because we had already budgeted that for this year's budget, which I believe
but they're not included in the 65,000, right?
it doesn't look like it from what I can see here.
So the 65,000, what would happen if we opted out, Larry? Would our radios be compatible with the system, or would we be forced to have to do the upgrade?
If the county switches over to a digital system, we would have to upgrade, which we were already in the process of doing piece by piece. We would just have to do it. We'd have to step that up a little bit.
We just wouldn't have the cars budgeted into that yet.
Correct. And software licenses.
And right.
So for anything to be compatible to be able to use, we'd have to upgrade that when they do that upgrade. Is that correct, Larry?
Yeah, when the upgrade takes place, yes.
Terry, do you recall what was in the budget
What is in the budget is the upgrade of the portable radios.
You got a ballpark dollar amount?
I want to say it was 28 something.
Yeah, I was gonna say 30, but
Okay. Close enough.
that was all the radios, which we would then need to budget this piece as well.
How soon, if the county receives this money, how soon will they have this communication upgrade done?
That I don't know. I'm assuming that there's going to be a time frame there because this entire project is including antenna work and installing equipment in multiple locations. So it would be an extended period of time. It wouldn't just be done, you know, in a weekend.
Right. No, I'm thinking, I mean, is this going to take a year, 2 years to do?
Oh, that part I don't know.
But don't they have to spend the money by the end of December? So it's going to happen pretty quickly.
Well, you can spend the money, but then postpone, I would think, the project, I would think. I don't know, though.
It's hard to imagine that they could get the project completed by the end of the year.
Correct.
Especially if you're doing towers and other things. If you have towers going someplace where you have to get an easement, we know how long that takes. You know, if it would go beyond, we certainly could look at, if there's a budget shortfall with us not participating, we could look at including some of that in the next year's budget also.
Sure.
I mean, I guess my point is, I think representing the taxpayers of Warrenton, you know, I'm a favor of the project. I'm just concerned about the funding and exposing the taxpayers to having to pay back something that was inappropriate, if it turns out to be inappropriate. And that
I think with as much confusion as we have with the funding issue, I would like to move that we opt out and upgrade as we need to and put it in our budget as necessary.
I'd second that.
Motion made by Alderman Miller, seconded by Alderman Ock to opt out of the CARES funding for the county-wide communication project. Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
No.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
No.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
There's a 4-2 for opting out, so we'll be opting out of the project.
Can I make an amendment to the motion? Is that legal?
Motion, not
that
after
legal?
it's already been brought
Well,
through.
yes,
I think you can
yes,
bring up
Council.
you can bring up another motion to make.
You could make a motion, a secondary motion related to it, Alderman Ock, if you so choose.
Okay, my secondary motion would be that, as it relates to the first motion, that if the county were to get clearance through an auditing firm, that this is an appropriate use of funds, the city would participate. That's my motion.
I can second that.
Motion made by Alderman Ock, seconded by Alderman Schultz on the secondary motion. Roll call vote.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 on the secondary motion of requiring an audit to be able to keep into the countywide communications project by the Warren County Commission.
Wait a minute. I didn't hear Gary say that they would have to have an audit.
No, my
I thought-
motion was simply that they need to have an opinion. So if they have an
Yeah.
opinion,
Not an audit.
I don't know, they will have to have the audit either way, but if their auditor firm gives an opinion, this is appropriate usage, then I have absolutely no problem with the city participating.
So you do want an audit, correct?
Well, they're going to have to get an audit anyway. That's the federal guidelines. So I want them to get an opinion first.
You want to get an opinion from an auditor.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, my thing is Terry just stated that they've already approved it. Is that correct, Terry?
Yes, the commission has already approved the project per Commissioner Gildahouse.
Again, I don't know if contracts are signed or what, but to me, that's the requirement. And I'm not saying requiring an audit. I'm saying required opinion, because one does not know on the audit what the outcome is going to be until the audit's completed. So, but if an opinion would be strong enough to say it looks like this is a reasonable use, I have no problem with that. So I'm not asking for the audit to be completed, and the audit will have to be done one way or the other, whether we say it as a city or not. It's going to happen one way or the other. So all I'm saying is if they come back with an opinion from a CPA firm that does federal audits that this is appropriate use of fund, then I have absolutely no problem at all with the city participating.
So you want an opinion from a CPA firm?
An opinion from an auditing firm, yes, that does federal audits.
Did you get all that, Melody?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we'll hear from City Administrator Terry Thorne.
Just a couple of things for you. Report from the Economic Development Council meeting on August 25th. Steve Etcher was there and reported on sort of a recap over the last year of what they're seeing. The top 2 industries that are inquiring are food production and PPE manufacturing. Though both of those industries are wanting buildings that are ready to move in, which we really don't have a lot in this area remaining, but they are seeing a lot of communication from individuals in those realms. The median size of land they're looking for is 39 acres. The median building size is 100 square feet. And he will continue each meeting to give us more and more details of kind of what the summary is over the last year's period. He also reported on the solar development that is looking to go north of Warrenton out in the county. They have already leased 3,000 acres in that area. There are 2 solar generation companies that are involved in that project. The county is working on putting a solar overlay district in place to their planning and zoning so that this can be allowed. And they're going to be having a series of public hearings in September so that the public can get involved and get their questions answered and learn about these solar generation projects. They've worked out a deal. Solar energy generation is not taxable in the state of Missouri. So there was some concern about the taxing entities not getting anything from this solar generation coming in. So they've worked out an agreement with those companies so that there'll be a structured revenue coming in the form of some kind of licensing or fees, and it will be distributed to all those taxing entities just as if it were taxes. So in those same percentages, and their estimate is about $1 million annually in fees generated that will go out to those taxing entities. Start of construction would be late 2020, and they intend to use local contractors where they can. Apparently a lot of it's very specialized, so crews have to be brought in who specialize, but where they can, their intent is to use local construction for that. So I think there's a lot of excitement about that project coming in and that possibility. The other thing, just informationally, there has been a handgun donated by Jeff Porter to benefit both the Montgomery and Warren Greater EDCs. It is a raffle for a 1911 Kimber 9mm special edition pistol. The tickets are $20 each. There's only gonna be 250 tickets sold, so it will be a nice addition to both those economic development groups. So if anyone's interested in a ticket, let me know. I can get those through Jeff and we can get those to you. I saw a picture and I tried to make it so that you could see it, but I couldn't get it to open on my iPad. So I'm sure some of you that are gun people know what those are. It's a really pretty gun. It's got purple detailing on it, which seems like, but anyway, that's their fundraiser. And the other thing for you is to let you know that later on tonight, there is an ordinance, which is another one of the condemnation ordinances related to the sidewalk on Highway 47. This would be the third that's out there, with only 2 remaining that have not been agreed upon. And so next meeting, we will go ahead and put those other 2 on so that they're in the process, so as not to delay, with the hopes that some of these that we already have in the process will be agreed upon before they're actually finalized.
Terry, would you go back and describe that pistol again, please?
Yes, it is a 1911 Kimber 9mm special edition. They valued it at around $1,500. All yours for a $20 raffle ticket if you're the lucky winner.
Is that Kimber?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Director of Operations, Brandy Walters.
Good evening. The one thing that I have for you tonight is, as you can see on your screen, I was contacted by Desiree over at NECAC, and they are wanting to do this community outreach program in helping feed homeless and hungry. They have, they're aware of approximately about 56 individuals that are currently living on the streets in our community area. And they said that they have talked to Agape, and since Agape has moved out, it's a little bit harder for people that don't have transportation to get to them on the couple days that they're open a week. So NECAC would like to start this program where they would fill this basically food box, and they're going to call it Feed My Neighbor. So we talked a little bit about this and decided that maybe the best location would be near our drop box at City Hall. And the city staff would build this and maintain it, and we would come up with an agreement with NECAC, and they would keep it filled as needed. So I just am coming to you guys tonight to see if that's something that you're interested in us moving forward with. If it is, we can get an agreement ready for the next meeting for your approval. And I believe Desiree is probably on here, but I don't know what her phone number is, so I don't know that for sure.
Brandy, I saw one of these boxes in Kirkwood on Saturday, and it was really cute, the design of it. I don't know who puts this in. I assumed any community member, not just Agape, could put food in here, but I don't know. I did, as I walked by it, I could tell there was not only food, there were toiletry items and everything in there. And I think it's a good idea. I don't know why someone would be opposed to a nice little structure sitting there that people could make use of. So I would support that.
Okay.
Is it for anyone is it always open for anyone to be able to get into?
Yes, it would always be open. NECAC would just be the ones that would fill it.
Is there any type of video that we will have on it to make sure that nobody's putting inappropriate things in there or doing something or putting something that could be harmful to somebody in there?
With it being by
foods or anything else?
With it being by our Dropbox, then we would have video down that way.
As long as we have something that's going to secure that, just in case, we'll have some type of video if there is some type of rude individual who would do that.
Yeah, I'd support it.
Be a good project for us, I think.
Could you tell me the location again, Brandy?
It'll be near the It'll be near the drop box at City Hall. So on the, I'm horrible at directions, on the west
West side.
side of the building. Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So if you guys are all in favor, then we can get an agreement ready and get that going for them so we can get this project moving.
Do you need a motion to put that forward, or you just need an agreement?
Just in agreement, and then we'll bring an agreement to the board.
Is there anybody that opposes it?
Nope.
I think you have any. Go ahead and proceed with it.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. That's all I have.
All right. Terry, does Neil have anything besides the bill that we have pushed off to the next meeting?
Let me see.
Or
No.
Brandon? Okay. Next, we'll hear from our finance officer, Dana Belaska. Or maybe not.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have before you a list of claims totaling $302,074.93. Were there any questions related to that list?
Could you say that amount again, please, Dana?
Certainly. $302,074.93.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any questions on that?
No.
I do not.
Entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $302,074.93.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Crump. Roll call vote.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. In
Yes.
addition, you have July financials in front of you. So those are just for the first month of this fiscal year. You'll notice that general fund revenues in total are $5,000 below budget. Sales tax is about $30,000 above budget in the general fund, while police fines and actually some of the, I'm sorry, I lost my here. The pool is $12,000 below budget, and police fines are about $14,000 below budget. So in total, only $5,000 below budget for that first month. Then in operating expenses in the general fund, they're running about $50,000 below budget. So, you know, part of that is the cancellation of the fall festival. And then there's just some other supplies and maintenance type items that we may not have spent yet. In the water and sewer fund, you'll see that revenues are about $41,000 below budget. We noticed that connection fees were down a little bit in July, but what we did see in June, they were up quite a bit, and now we're seeing August has been up. So I think it's just a timing issue on new housing starts. We don't anticipate being off in our budget of expected new construction this year, so that'll all catch up in time, we believe. Operating expenses are about $26,000 below budget. And again, just mostly material supply, repairs, things that just haven't happened in that first month of the year. Were there any other questions related to the financials for July?
Dana, why do you think electric is below? What? Like,
And again,
what is?
Yeah, and we had seen historically that, you know, it just varies from year to year, what the seasonality is of the summer and things like that, you know, if it's as hot as it was a year ago or 2 years ago. So again, something I believe will work itself out by the end of the year.
Okay.
Dana, I have a couple of questions for you.
Certainly.
On the interchange fund, sales tax, first year to date, which would be the first month, 175,880. And we budgeted the first month at 154, so we're ahead by 21,000. Is that kind of what we anticipated, or is that a surprise?
Well, you know, when we started budgeting, it was really in the high point of our COVID concerns. We have seen during this time period that our sales tax has not seen the same type of decrease that some cities have seen. So we're very thankful for that. But so it's a little better than we budgeted. But again, it's still early in the game. You know, we're just watching to see what happens over the next few months.
Sure.
But again, I think we were extremely conservative when we budgeted.
If we go down to the last item, the TIF RPA 1 fund, can you explain to me what that means? Below says EATS RPA 1 TIF.
Certainly. The terminology is EATs are economic activity, so that would be sales tax. Pilots are for the property taxes related to the TIF. So we'll see those happen when the tax bill comes out and the payments happen, you know, a little bit later this year. So that's just a difference, sales tax versus property tax.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Aquatics Director Lisa Kramer.
Good evening. You have my report in front of you. August has been a very good month with reservations being made at the pool. We also offered water fit classes every day at 8 o'clock. And this coming month, we will be adding a new instructor and another water fit class to hopefully bring in more people at the pool. Those classes will be on Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock. And with school back in session, we will be pulling back our hours during the day, Tuesday through Friday, so that we won't be sitting at an empty pool with lifeguards from 12 until 4, but we're extending our hours until 8 o'clock, 2 days a week. And we are adding Sundays in for reservations starting at noon as well to match the Saturday schedule. Does anybody have any questions?
Lisa, I noticed we still have a sign up that we're looking for help at the pool. Are we getting very many applicants at all?
We are not getting many applicants. The ones we are getting are more water friendly than they are able to swim. The prerequisite for being a lifeguard, you need to be able to swim at least 10 lengths of the pool without stopping. And the 2 applicants that I have gotten have not been able to do that. Although we are willing to work with those applicants and teach them how to get their endurance, help them to get their endurance so that we can get lifeguards. But we are very short-staffed. And I am working a lot of hours lifeguarding.
Okay. I know years ago, I can remember taking a Red Cross life-saving water life-saving. Is that the criteria that you guys use? Is it?
Yes.
I mean, how does someone get qualified to do this, in other words?
We are following the Red Cross guidelines. We are using Red Cross certified lifeguards now.
Okay. That answers all my questions.
I have a question for you, Lisa. Do we, at one time, we only allowed folks there that are members? Is that correct?
We are still only open to members in the morning from 6 until noon. And then in the afternoons, during the weekday, starting at 4, members can bring in a guest or guests with them, and the same thing on the weekends.
Okay. I had someone ask me that and I wasn't sure.
But they can buy a membership. We do have those monthly payments now for the year. So anybody that used to come in on a punch card, it's actually cheaper now to do the monthly membership and pay monthly and be able to use it. So we're taking in new members all the time. And we also have the Silver Sneakers and Renew Active.
So how much is that monthly program?
For seniors, it's $150 for residents and $170 for non-residents.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All for me.
All right. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Public Works Director Guy Jeevers. Or maybe not.
He was here.
He's still here. He's just
Here.
muted. There he
Can
is.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, guys.
Okay, let's try it again. So the monthly report, we started on Thurman Street and got that tore out and got some curb in there and got it rocked. We plan on paving that pretty shortly. Had two sewer calls, both of them were on the city. One was a major one that we had to replace the sewer main on. We got the concrete work across the street done for the courthouse. So asphalt company's supposed to be in late September to get that paved with the other streets. They're doing some curb repairs on Warren Avenue, getting them ready for asphalt work. Any questions on anything?
That you mentioned that activity on Thurman Street. Is that next to the bed and breakfast?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Guy?
Is the new well wire up and running?
No, it's not. Right now, we had water samples taken. Contractors grabbed samples, and then we also send samples to DNR. We're waiting for the response back from DNR on how the sample will come out. They still need to re-camera that line to go to the bottom. And right now, the engineers are looking at what our water level is and what size pump and what size casing is going to be needed. They're working on getting ready to work on the inside of the building, get the chlorine system set up and some piping work inside the building.
Just out of curiosity, you know how far they had to drill down before they hit water?
I should have wrote that down. Deeper than we expected. Let me see what's on this. I don't have it in front of me.
That's fine. I was just curious.
I can look on I can look real quick and
That's okay if you don't have it. I was just curious as to.
yeah, it's deep.
It's deep.
It's deep.
Are all the wells generally within the same, what is it called, aquifer, or the same area? Or are they?
No, it's different. It's different. And so we had to go deeper than what some of our other wells were. And the productions are more than what this well is right now, the way it looks. And like I said, that information, where they tell you to dig and where the water should, where they tell you to drill and where the water should be at, comes from DNR. So they're kind of looking at the locations of our wells that we already have in place, plus other surrounding areas. So that's how they come up with that information.
Interesting. Thank you.
I had a question off subject, Guy. we had discussed about removing the trees in the Ashland Meadow subdivision quite some time ago. I had a neighbor that was asking me when those were coming out, because I had mentioned when we had voted on that, that they were coming out, and there's quite a bit of buckling in the sidewalk. Do we have a timeline on when that's going to get completed?
Let me look real quick. I don't know what quarter it's in, but I'm waiting for it to pop up.
We can let you know, Scott.
Yeah,
That's fine. I knew winter's coming up. I know the mirrors on the plow trucks are, that the trees have grown further this summer. So seeing when they were going to get removed.
okay.
We'll send out an email if that's okay and let you
That's fine.
know.
That's fine.
Sorry. Wait a minute. No, it ain't computer's running slow.
It's okay. We'll take care of it by email. There's no need.
Right.
Any other questions for Guy?
Nope.
All right. Move on to, thank you, Guy. We'll move on to bills to ordinance. I'll entertain a motion for first reading of bill number 43-2020.
So moved.
Second.
I think it was Deloy and Dyer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
In
Motion made by
ordinance,
Deloy.
go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
In ordinance of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, the city authorizing condemnation of certain interest in real property located in the city for the purpose of constructing new sidewalks, ditches, culverts, ADA ramps, and temporary construction easements necessary for the construction and improvements of the city's infrastructure.
I'll entertain a motion for a second reading and passage of bill number 43-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Who wants to second it and who went with it?
Cheryl can have first. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Dyer, second by Alderman Schultz.
In ordinance of the city of Warrenton, Missouri, the city authorizing condemnation of certain interest in real property located in the city for the purpose of constructing new sidewalks, ditches, culverts, ADA ramps, and temporary construction easements necessary for the construction and improvement of the city's infrastructure.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion to close the regular Board of Aldermen meeting, go into executive session for personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Zach, who was it that seconded Melody?
Alderman Dyer,
Okay. Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Dyer. Roll call vote.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey.
No. Alderman Shell Harvey.
Sorry. Sorry,
Oh.
sorry. Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer.
Yes.
It's been a long day.
Motion
Sorry,
passes
guys.
6-0. The regular Board of Aldermen meeting is coming to a close, and we will open up the executive session in a moment.
Oh, gosh.